The notification light on my phone blinked at 11:47 p.m. It was the only light in my cabin, a sharp intrusion cutting through the deep Appalachian silence of eastern West Virginia. The message was from my mother, Denise. It didn't say hello. It didn't ask if I was awake. It read, quote, "Code isn't working. Lauren is freezing. Open the gate." End quote. I didn't get up. I didn't panic. I simply opened the security app on my tablet with a swipe of my finger. The grainy night vision feed showed my sister Lauren shivering beside the keypad at the bottom of my driveway. But she wasn't alone. Idling behind her, coughing gray exhaust into the frozen mountain air, was a 24-foot Penske moving truck. They hadn't come to visit. They had come to claim territory. I didn't text back. I didn't call to ask for an explanation. In my line of work as a risk analyst, we are trained to isolate variables and predict outcomes. The variable here was a moving truck idling on my private road at midnight. The outcome, if I opened that gate, was permanent occupation. My parents and sister hadn't come for the holidays. They had come because they had burned their own lives to the ground and decided my solitude was their contingency plan. I watched the screen. Lauren was stomping her boots in the snow, gesturing angrily at her husband, Evan, who leaned against the truck with the posture of a man who already knew he'd lost. They were waiting for the gate to slide open. They were waiting for me to perform my role, the dependable daughter, the quiet sister, the one who absorbed chaos so everyone else could stay comfortable. With a tap, the camera feed vanished, replaced by my smart home control panel. I scrolled to the security tab. There was the guest code I'd given my mother 3 years earlier for emergencies. My finger hovered over the trash icon. I didn't hesitate. I tapped delete, then confirm. The command traveled through fiber optic cable buried beneath frozen ground, severing the only link they had to my heat and shelter. On the monitor, I watched Lauren punch the keypad again. Then she kicked the metal post. They were trapped. The private road to my cabin was nearly 4 miles long, narrow, iced over, and shielded by steep forest on both sides. There was no cell service in the valley, only the intercom system wired directly to my house. The intercom buzzed, sharp and demanding in the quiet living room. I walked over and turned the volume all the way down. Silence returned. I picked up my landline. This was their only exit strategy, and I was about to set the terms. I called the county sheriff's office and kept my voice calm, professional, and detached. I told the dispatcher there were trespassers blocking my private access road. I didn't say family. I didn't say mother or sister. I said trespassers. Legally, that was exactly what they were. For the next 20 minutes, I stood by the window watching the red tail lights of the truck smear through falling snow. My phone vibrated relentlessly on the table, a frantic pulse I refused to acknowledge. I didn't block them yet. I needed the record of escalation. When the blue and red lights of the cruiser cut through the trees, I felt a cold, efficient satisfaction. I watched as the deputy stepped out. I saw my father, Raymond, climb down from the truck, waving his arms, pointing uphill toward my cabin. He was trying to explain, trying to charm, trying to deploy the authority he'd used on me my entire life. But on the side of a mountain at midnight, his authority had no value. The deputy pointed back down the road. Leave. I watched them climb back into their vehicles. The truck executed a clumsy, dangerous 3-point turn before disappearing around the bend. I didn't feel safe exactly. I felt competent. I had identified a risk and neutralized it. When the sheriff left, the silence felt heavier. Why had I been so severe? Why hadn't I just talked to them? I sat at my desk and opened a new spreadsheet. It wasn't for work. I titled it The Cost of Independence. People look at my paid-off cabin, my savings account, my quiet evenings and call it luck, or privilege, or selfishness. They see the result, not the chain I forged link by painful link to climb out of the pit my family dug. Row 1. Date, February 3rd, 6 years ago. Expense, $38,500. Description, Lauren's credit card consolidation. I stared at the number. I was 23, Fresh out of grad school, working 70-hour weeks, living in a one-room apartment with no natural light to save money, Lauren was posting photos from rooftop bars while drowning in interest payments. My parents called me crying. "She'll never recover from this. You're good with money. Help her." So I did. I drained my account and bought her relief with my labor. Row 2. Date, July 19th, 4 years ago. Expense, $14,200. Description, parents' emergency home repair. The emergency turned out to be a remodeled kitchen they wanted but couldn't afford. They didn't ask, they emailed the invoice. I paid because that's what the reliable daughter does. The list kept growing. Legal fees for Evan's failed business venture, a down payment on a car Lauren needed to maintain appearances. It wasn't just money, it was time. Every dollar was an hour of my life spent working while everyone else relaxed. I stopped typing and looked out at the frost-covered trees. People call me cold. They don't understand that for me, money isn't luxury, it's oxygen. In a family that treated me like a utility, savings were proof I belonged to myself. Frugality wasn't a quirk, it was a defense system. Then the final entry. Date, 1 month ago. Event, eviction. I hadn't known it at the time. I learned later from a neighbor. My parents, Raymond, co-signed Lauren's lease in Ohio. When she stopped paying rent to fund her online brand, the landlord threatened litigation. Terrified of the fallout, my parents negotiated a termination. They didn't tell me. They didn't ask if I had space. They assumed. They assumed the dependable one would absorb the impact. They canceled her lease because they believed my home was already theirs. I closed the laptop and stared at the dark reflection of my face on the screen. I didn't look like a victim. I looked like a risk analyst who had finally reconciled the numbers. I had spent 6 years buying my freedom. That night, I simply refused to issue a refund. Morning broke over the Appalachian ridgeline in streaks of bruised pink and gold. Normally, that kind of sunrise slowed my breathing, reminded me why I'd chosen isolation. Today, the silence shattered with the angry vibration of my phone against the wooden table. The digital assault had begun. I didn't answer the phone. I picked it up to collect evidence. The first notification was from Instagram. Lauren had posted a reel 3 hours earlier. It already had 10,000 views. I tapped it open. The video began with a tight shot of her face, mascara, tears carefully streaked, wrapped in a thin motel blanket. She looked fragile, cinematic. The caption read, "Abandoned by my own sister in the freezing mountains." I watched with detached focus. "We just wanted to surprise her for the holidays," Lauren sobbed into the camera. "We drove all night and she locked us out. She called the police on our parents. Now we're stranded with nowhere to go." She didn't mention the moving truck. She didn't mention the furniture packed inside it. She didn't mention canceling her lease without asking me. In her version, she was a helpless orphan and I was the villain slamming the door. The comments flooded in. "Your sister is evil. Family doesn't do this. Narcissist, sociopath, monster." Strangers who knew nothing about my life were diagnosing my character in real time. Then the text came. Not emotional, tactical. My mother sent a screenshot of a Motel 6 receipt. "We're in Elkins, 2 rooms, $190 a night. Venmo us $600 now for lodging and food. This is your responsibility. Fix it." I set the phone down and looked out at the frozen forest. Years ago, I would have folded. The guilt would have crushed me. I would have wondered if maybe I was heartless, but that version of me no longer existed. I evaluated the situation the way I evaluated failing systems, root cause analysis. My parents weren't insane. They weren't malicious masterminds. They were conditioned. For decades, our family functioned on extraction. Lauren consumed, I compensated. They didn't see my resources as mine. They saw them as communal assets. To them, my refusal wasn't a boundary. It was theft. I wasn't depriving them of generosity. I was denying them access to a tool they believed they owned. Once I understood that, negotiation became impossible. You cannot reason with a system that treats your autonomy as betrayal. I didn't respond. I didn't comment on the video. I took screenshots, the reel with timestamps, the Venmo demand. I saved everything in a folder labeled evidence. Then I stopped playing defense. When a liability becomes volatile, you don't appease it, you insure against it. I searched for a property attorney licensed in West Virginia with a reputation for aggressive enforcement. I found one, Mark Caldwell. Expensive, precise, reviews described him as ruthless. I called. The consultation fee was $350 an hour. It was the best investment I'd ever made. For 2 hours, emotion was irrelevant. I forwarded the deed to my cabin, in my name only, the security footage, the payment demands, the public defamation. Mark didn't console me, he strategized. By midday, a cease and desist letter existed, dense, final. It barred Denise, Raymond, Lauren, and Evan from my property permanently. It outlined criminal trespass consequences. It addressed digital harassment and public defamation with the threat of civil litigation. I learned something important then. No is a complete sentence, but a lawyer's letter turns it into a command. It strips away guilt and replaces it with consequence. Next, I neutralized the digital front. I flagged Lauren's video for harassment and location exposure, citing exact timestamps. I contacted the platform about the fundraising page she'd launched, claiming they were stranded, flagging it for misrepresentation. By early afternoon, the video disappeared. The fundraiser was frozen. The noise stopped. I printed the letter, signed it, scanned it, emailed it. Subject line, notice of legal action. No apology, no explanation. I sat back and watched snow drift past the windows. They wanted emotion. I gave them infrastructure. 3 days later, Mark called. His voice lacked its usual polish. I found something while reviewing property filings, he said. My stomach tightened. Your sister registered an LLC 3 months ago, Appalachian Renewal Retreats. The registered business address is your cabin. The room went cold. What? There's more. She submitted a lease agreement to secure a $50,000 small business loan. The lease bears your signature, or a forgery of it. The floor shifted beneath me. This wasn't entitlement anymore. It was criminal fraud. She'd forged my name, taken money from a lender, taken money from customers. That's why they came, I said quietly. That's why the truck. They weren't visiting. They were setting up. If guests arrive and there's no retreat, Mark said, she's exposed to fraud, forgery, theft by deception, and if your parents assisted, they're accessories. I opened the website. Polished, professional, stock imagery mixed with one unmistakable photo, my living room, pulled from the real estate listing when I bought the cabin. Restore your spirit in the Appalachian wilds, 7-day immersive retreat, private sanctuary, 12 spots, sold out. The dates started next week. This was the leverage. I didn't need to justify myself anymore. Send everything to the district attorney, I said, and to the bank. Are you certain? Mark asked. This can't be undone. She could face prison. I thought about the years of extraction, the debt, the manipulation, the way they assumed I'd always catch them. I'm certain. Do it, I said. 2 days later, they came back. Snow was falling hard, thick sheets reducing the mountains to shadows. I saw the headlights first, weak and uncertain, stopping at the locked gate. A rented SUV this time. My phone rang. Unknown number. I ignored it. The intercom buzzed. I ignored that too. Then I turned on the monitor. My mother, Denise, stood in the snow pressing the button over and over, her fashionable jacket useless against the cold. Beside her, Lauren looked hollow, wrapped in a scarf, eyes wide with panic. Julia, please, my mother's voice cracked through the speaker. We know you're there. I watched them quietly. They looked small, diminished. The rage I'd expected never came. What replaced it was distance, emotional altitude. I pressed the talk button. What do you want? We have to talk, Denise cried. It's an emergency. I sent you a cease and desist, I said evenly. You are trespassing. We know, she rushed, but we don't have a choice. The retreat guests arrive tomorrow. Tomorrow? I asked. 12 of them. They've already flown in. They're driving up tomorrow morning. Lauren stepped forward, pressing her face toward the camera. Julia, please. I spent the deposit money. I can't refund them. If I cancel, they'll sue me. I could go to jail. You should have thought about that before selling tickets to a house you don't own, I said. I made a mistake, she sobbed. I was trying to build something. I thought you'd support me. You always have. I supported you, I corrected. I enabled you. There's a difference. Please, Denise begged. Just 1 week. Let her host the retreat. We'll clean everything. We'll pay you from the profits. Save your sister. If she goes to jail, it will destroy your father. I looked at Raymond, sitting in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, unable to meet the camera. He knew. He'd always known. He was still here anyway. This was the inversion. For decades, they controlled approval, affection, belonging. Now I held consequence. I could open the gate. I could rescue them again, and nothing would change. I am not your insurance policy anymore, I said. Family doesn't do this, Lauren screamed. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't commit fraud in your name, I replied. I picked up a paper from the counter. The case number is 24-C917. That's the fraud investigation opened by the district attorney yesterday. I forwarded the forged lease, the website, the loan documents. The bank has already frozen the account. Lauren collapsed into the snow. Denise screamed. Go home, I said. Get a lawyer and never come back here. You're killing us, my mother wailed. I reached forward and powered off the intercom. The screen went black. The sound cut out. Silence flooded the cabin. I didn't watch them leave. I made tea. I stood at the back window, facing the forest instead of the road. I didn't need to see them go. I knew they were gone. The weeks that followed were quiet and procedural. My attorney handled the legal fallout. I handled the absence. I changed my number, deleted social media, disconnected the landline. The only access point left was my attorney or the mountain road, and I doubted they'd risk either again. Eventually, updates came through. Lauren faced felony charges. The plea deal included probation, restitution, and a permanent record. The 12 retreat clients sued. My parents sold their suburban home to help cover the damage. They downsized. The legacy they tried to protect by sacrificing me was gone, consumed by the child they enabled. I didn't feel victorious. I felt unburdened. One evening in January, I sat on my deck with a mug of hot cider, snow falling softly, erasing the last traces of the moving truck's tracks. I thought about the family I lost, or rather, the family I finally admitted I never had. We're taught that blood is everything, that DNA entitles people to unlimited access to your life. That's a lie. Biology is chance. Loyalty is choice. You don't owe your future to people who only value you as a resource. Cutting ties wasn't cruelty, it was survival. I looked out at the quiet wilderness surrounding my home. It was peaceful. It was mine. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a comment with your perspective or the key lesson you took away.